Welcome back to the show, Winfield Bevins.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think we've ever had a two-time guest, and I know we've certainly not had a three-time guest.
Oh my gosh.
So,
You're a pioneer.
It's true, yeah. You joined us to talk about the storm post the flood here in Asheville. We talked about Creole arts the other time, and now you're joining us to talk about this new book you wrote called How Beauty Will Save the World.
Yeah, it's great to be back with you guys.
Absolutely. So the first question we ask is typically, what's your background with beauty? But we've already got that answer from you.
Yeah.
So the first question I want to ask is, what's a recent moment that beauty has captured you?
That's good. Yeah, I mean, wow, just so much. I think recently we have gone through, what's interesting is Kentucky kind of had a historic drought the last, coming into the fall. It was weird. We went several months without rain, and for the last few weeks, there's just been just rain, and the grass has just turned green again. And even though it's in November, I've kind of been calling a second spring. And I'll put on my, rubber boots and just walk in the fields, and it's just so magnificent. And yesterday I literally took, I think, 3 walks, and one of those walks, man, I just wept. I mean, it was just so beautiful. And, it's kind of that, we're going in November and there's like this fog out, but the grass is green, and it's kind of, I don't know, just, so I was just captured by the natural beauty of the landscape and, God's creation, just even yesterday. So,
Yeah.
I hear the grass is blue there, which that must be pretty
It's
remarkable.
amazing.
Yeah, spring here actually is an incredible time. You have the limestone, it just produces just this incredible, vibrant grass landscape. I don't know if that's why they call it the bluegrass.
Yeah, and we need an etymology of bluegrass. Yeah.
We need to figure that out.
I should know, but
So we'll get into a lot of the specifics on the book, but I was wondering if you could give us a brief overview of the book.
yeah, How Beauty Will Save the World. The subtitle really kind of hits it as recovering the power of the arts for the Christian life. And, the book is really designed to help Christians, not just artists, but pastors, Christians across the spectrum, to embrace the arts and beauty for everyday life. And so really it's a book for everybody. So maybe you're listening to the podcast, you're not an artist. Like, I'd say this book is for you. Actually, it's maybe even more for you. It's the kind of book that an artist would give to their pastor, their family, their friends, to say, here's why beauty matters. And a through line of the book is actually, whoever you are, whatever you do, make your life a work of art. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a pastor, whether you're a patron, whether you're a mother that's, a stay-at-home mom, raising your children, like, make your home a work of art. And so it's really how the arts can inspire us to really make our lives a beautiful masterpiece and with the Lord. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So maybe for the critic listening who, this line that beauty will save the world feels, no, beauty will not save the world. Jesus will, or truth will save the world, or justice will save the world. Why this focus on beauty? Maybe another way to ask it is what would you say to the haters out there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the line comes, from a Dostoevsky quote, and it's, rather than say beauty will save how beauty will save the world, it's like, okay, well, how? And, ultimately, you have the 3 historic kind of transcendentals, beauty, goodness, and truth, that point to the one who is beautiful, good, and true, which is God. And so beauty in and of itself, I think a lot of maybe the haters or the critics might say, well, beauty, there's a misconception of what beauty actually is. Beauty isn't just skin deep. It's not cosmetic. It's not a particular culture. It's something that transcends culture, space, and time. And there are glimpses of it. And beauty points us again. It lifts up our eyes to the redemptive power of God. And it points us again to the one who is beautiful, good, and true. And so I really see beauty as a reflection. There are encounters and moments of beauty. Like I said, even just yesterday, walking through the fields and having an experience of the transcendence. And for a moment, just a passing moment, I had an encounter with the Lord. And I think that's what beauty has the power to do. Not just visually, but experientially. There are moments of beauty in an infant smile or sharing a meal with someone. So it's not just through the arts. I think beauty can be experienced in everyday life, in moments of friendship, and moments of reconciliation, redemption, in stories. There's all sorts of ways that we can encounter beauty. And I think if we really thought about that, those that might have some pushback to the title or even the term beauty, I think we'll really get it if we really kind of let down our guard and say, okay, what is beautiful? What is beauty? And how can it change and transform my life?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe speak to that. Like, how would you define beauty and its power to form and transform?
Yeah, I think what beauty does is it reminds us to pause and to be present. And it reminds us also how beauty will save the world is that maybe it reminds us to be a child again. You know, Jesus says, unless you have the faith of a child, you can't enter into the kingdom. And for such as these is the kingdom, Jesus says. And I think oftentimes we grow up and we put on, our business suits and strategery, and we want to scale everything up and we want to go big and do the next big thing. When beauty reminds us to be present, to be in the moment, and that's where God is able to speak and able to transform in being fully present. And I think one of the most greatest needs in the time in which we live, and I fully believe this, is that God wants to invite us to slow down and to be present to God, to ourselves, to our families, to our communities. So many people are obsessed with all the stuff that's going on in the news, and it's such a divisive world, cancel culture, all this stuff. And I think if we'll just pause and we'll slow down, I believe the world will be a better place. And I think people will bring beauty to the world and craftsmanship, again, shaping and making our lives a work of art by being present and attentive to the moments in which God has called us to live is one of the greatest needs I believe that we have.
Yeah.
Gary's got a question right on those lines, but I love this quote from G.K. Chesterton that that's in our book. But I know it was the first page. It says, because children have abounding vitality, because they are in spirit fierce and free, therefore they want things repeated and unchanged. They always say, do it again. And the grown-up does it again until he is nearly dead.
Yes.
For grown-up people are not strong enough to exult in monotony. But perhaps God is strong enough to exalt monotony. It is possible that God says every morning, do it again to the sun, and every evening, do it again to the moon. It may not be automatic necessity that makes all daisies alike. It may be that God makes every daisy separately, but has never got tired of making them. It may be that he has the eternal appetite of infancy, for we have sinned and grown old, and our Father is younger than we.
Love that
I
quote.
love that quote from Chesterton.
Do it again. That's what this book's about, Alex.
Yeah.
You write at one point about the way, this is right along the lines of what you just been saying, the hurry, distraction, how it hinders our ability to appreciate beauty. And so I was curious about what are some of the things that you see that kind of block our ability to take beauty in, to appreciate it, to see it, and why those people who are rushed in life tend to miss it. but also maybe some practical ways that we can learn how to avoid missing beauty. How maybe some practical ways that we can practice slowing down and grow in our ability to see where God is present through beauty.
Yeah, one of the chapters is on art as a spiritual discipline, and it's exactly that. Is beauty begins with, I kind of wrote the book from the perspective of starting with how beauty has saved me, and rather than saying, hey, this is for everybody else, here's how it's impacted me. And I think this idea of slowing down, beauty calls us, the arts, let's just kind of, beauty is, again, more of a conceptual term, but the arts is more of the pragmatic, like listening to a symphony, encountering a painting, reading poetry, art in all of its forms, storytelling, song, invite us to pause, to reflect, to think again for ourselves. And I think, honestly, one of the greatest challenges to humanity in this moment in history is technology. And again, here we are on making a podcast, and we're, on our computers. So these are tools, but we can't, I think for many people, these tools that we've created to make our lives better, actually we become enslaved to them. And so what beauty does, and the arts remind us of our humanity. It reminds us that we are created in the image of God, who is the great creator. And the arts and beauty have the power to bring us back to the present moment, to experience God, to experience ourselves, and to fully be present to those around us. And so, there are simple practices. Some of them I mentioned in the book, like Visio Divina, literally prayerfully reflecting on a piece of art. You could apply the principles of Visio Divina to, listening to music or experiencing any form of art. It takes some of the principles of Lectio Divina, which, maybe more listeners are aware of, where you prayerfully reflect on a single passage of Scripture, and you allow a word or something to kind of emerge from that, and then you respond to that. And again, the power of the arts is they engage our senses. They engage the full range of who we are created to be, mind, body, spirit, but also through the senses, our visuals, our senses, our tastes, our smells. And they remind us that we're human. We are not robots. We're not what we produce. We are, because God has created us. Does that answer? Was that kind of in the range
I
of
think
your
that's
question?
a really practical way of drawing meaning out of art, but also learning how to be present to it and in life in general. I think I was talking recently with someone about the prayer of examine. One thing I like to do with the prayer of examine is not to like scrounge up what to be thankful for or sort of dig for where God is present, but to be silent before God and let him reveal those places that he has been present to us. And I think that sitting with art is difficult when we, as we're conditioned as consumers, try to make it meaningful, or we appreciate its decorative value and gloss over that something, we might have something to learn from this. We might be able to draw something from this. God might even use it as an instrument or a vessel to reveal to us. And so I think it's important that art, we learn how to do that with art, but also that art teaches us how to do that across the board in life, even to be attentive to our kids and to learn to realize that beauty is even revealed sometimes to us in a smile or a breeze, and we become more anticipatory. Is that a word? Something?
Sure, yeah. I like it.
To where God, we start to expect God to reveal himself to us. Whereas maybe in the past, it just sort of went over our heads or by us.
Well, it's that classic line of take time to smell the roses, or take time to,
Mhm.
it's like little children see everything. And just a real personal something the Lord's been doing in my life, and it's going to maybe sound weird, but about 6 months ago, I was praying on my, I'm in my home studio. I was praying outside one morning, and a feather fell in my Bible while I'm reading and praying. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like this tiny little feather. And since then, I have found literally dozens of feathers. And they're just these tiny little white inner lining of like dove feathers. It's the wildest thing. I see them everywhere. Um, and I tell some people these stories. I collect them. It's wild. I've started putting them in little glass jars and giving them to people. I'm like, where are these feathers coming from? And some people might say, well, you're crazy. Here's my thought: is finding feathers could mean nothing, or it can mean everything. And it could be a miracle, or maybe the miracle is that, some people might be like, oh, those are angel feathers, or, it's a sign from God. Or maybe it's the Lord's attuned my eyes to see what is actually always around me. But the average person is living their life in such a rapid pace that they don't see the little miracles. And
Yeah.
again, maybe the simple miracle of the feather is that this is a work of art. Like if you look at a tiny little, let me show you one. Just literally, I'm walking in the field yesterday. Look how small this feather is. Here I am in a huge, big grass field, and all of a sudden my eyes fall down, and I find this. Can you see this?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I have dozens of these, and if you look at it really closely, it's a beautiful work of art, and it's God's art. God made that bird, and each little tiny feather has its own intricate details and craftsmanship from the great Creator. And these are ways that God is attuning me to His creation, not in some weird
Hmm.
pantheistic kind of. This is our Father's creation. And art and beauty, again, the power of slowing down and being present to actually see what is around us, I think is the greatest gift that the arts can give to every one of us, no matter who we are. Sorry for that little ranting on the
No,
feather.
no, it's great. No, I'm reminded of, I think it's Jamie Smith and how not to be secular. He says the two modern sanctuaries are the art gallery and the concert venue, because those are like the last vestiges of slowing down enough to
Yep.
see transcendence, and how hard it is, and kind of, yeah, what you're kind of critiquing of this fast paced, busy, distracted world. It's not that we just are distracted from God, but we're distracted from everything. And so if we can't attend to
Yep.
a child or a piece of art, how do you think you're going to attend to God?
Yes.
And I think that's great points.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So you were in pastoral ministry for a long while, and now you're in this new role, and professor, and then now this new role of kind of art curator, master. If you were to go back into like a local parish ministry, what would be kind of
Yeah.
your goals to include the arts? Like, so I'm imagining like, yeah, it's for you personally. That's the question, but maybe it's advice to a local parish pastor. Like, what are the things that you would tell them to
Yep.
curate an aesthetic or beautiful imagination for their church?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and that's a real passion that I have. That is one of the some of the fuel behind the fire of Creo Arts is we want to support artists, but we also want to come alongside the church and encourage churches to awaken their sacred imagination, and how every church could see how they can become a patron of the arts, because the church for so long was one of the great patron of the arts. But this doesn't have to be some super, complex thing. As I would boil it down to like three basic, simple ways every church can engage the power of the arts. One is, to use preacher language, the 3 points would be guilds, galleries, and gatherings. One is every pastor, every church can open its doors to gather artists, to form guilds, artist communities, basically, to help disciple, form, and encourage the artists that are there, to welcome them in. Two is the reimagining of sacred space, gallery space. Like imagine the tens of thousands of churches across the United States that sit empty 6 days a week, and usually they're open, 1 or 2 hours on Sunday, and that's it. In my mind, that's a really poor use of kingdom stewardship of the resources that God has given us. Imagine if churches could begin to curate gallery space and open their wall spaces and to invite the arts and help curate spaces to bring the arts into the church. Now, there's frameworks, there's ways that we actually help churches do that in a way that's thoughtful, curated, theologically rooted and grounded, and there's different ways to do this. But I want to awaken the imagination to just give pastors, church leaders, church members permission to dream a little bit. That's what the arts do, right? Mm-hmm. And then thirdly, gatherings, like using building space to have art shows and multi-art events or multi-worship arts events to kind of incorporate the arts into worship experiences or community art shows, like using the building to actually invite the community in to experience the arts. And so that, I love this idea of reimagining sacred space. Like, what if we dreamt together in our churches? Like, how can we embrace the power of the arts to, one, to form us as disciples, to form the imagination as a part of the discipleship of the church, but also how can the arts be a bridge, a missional outreach to our local communities so our communities are invited in to come and experience the power of the arts?
If you're imagining the church in 50 years, and you're kind of dreaming into a vision of what, through things like Creo or things like what you called the quiet renaissance of the arts, what's your dream about the church in 50 years? What's it look like?
Yeah. I mean, my dream is that there would be a movement of Christian artists that are what I call missionaries of beauty. Like actually naming that to say, actually artists have something to contribute to the mission of God, the Missio Dei, the mission of God. And artists and the arts matter. And in the world in which we live in, it's a highly visual, highly artistic driven, emerging generations are drawn to art and beauty. So I believe that the Lord is actually calling the church to embrace the arts again for formation, but also for the sake of mission. And I think it's going to be integral in the next decade for the church to embrace the arts. I really believe that. It's not just theoretical. As you mentioned, I'm an ordained minister. I'm an Anglican priest. I've been committed over the last 2 decades to training church leaders around the world through my work at Asbury Seminary. I believe with every fiber of my being that the church, this is the moment. I think the quiet renaissance is actually becoming a renewal. And I think it's a part of something that the Lord really wants to birth in and through not just one church, not just one denomination, but across the church. And I'm seeing it happen with churches like Redeemer in Asheville, what you guys are doing. I think y'all are part of the Renaissance. I just flew back from Los Angeles. We're working with a wonderful Lutheran church in Los Angeles. Over this past year, we helped them launch a arts center called the Kipos Arts Center. And I was commissioned to paint their prayer chapel, and we partnered. They owned a doctor's office on a corner block, and they've turned this doctor's office into a community arts center, and the doctor-patient rooms now are artist studios. And I'm so invested in this work in LA. I've sent my oldest daughter went out there to intern for a year, and she has an art studio, and she's working with them. And so the stories of like what God's doing through, the church there in Asheville, how you all are engaging the arts, Los Angeles. I could tell you dozens of other stories of where this is happening across the denominations. It is just really exciting. Imagine, I think there's this fresh breath that's God's breathing in the church in new ways to just reimagine. Again, not reinvent the church. That's not what we're talking about here. I'm not talking about playing with theology. I believe in the one holy Catholic Apostolic Church. I believe in the core theological foundations. But to use the great St. Augustine quote, what I'm talking about is God is ever ancient, ever new. He's the one who is all beautiful, and he's birthing and bringing forth new forms of beauty and expressions through the arts in a way that's faithfully rooted in the faith once delivered to the saints, being passed on. So what I'm envisioning is a beautiful Orthodox rooted movement of churches that have, again, a core solid faith and a commitment to the faith delivered to the saints, but are reaching out and embracing the arts in a way that's forming people's souls and imaginations in fresh new ways, but engaging the world in a way that's compelling and beautiful, inviting people to come in and experience the goodness of God.
That's good.
Good. Yeah, I was wondering if you would want to give us the last word to artists. You've done this before on our show, but I'm wondering specifically where you are right now. What are some things that you're seeing, and how would you want to encourage artists?
Yeah, I think my encouragement to artists is that you matter and your art matters to God, and to be faithful artists, to be faithful to your faith, to not be afraid to create out of a prayerful space, to get centered in Christ. I believe if artists can go deep in their faith, their art will reflect that. And it doesn't have to be overtly Christian but I believe the light, the hope, the love of the gospel will shine through everything we create, everything we touch, the lives that we live, that the life of the divine will be reflected through your art. So one, I would just encourage you to really press in. God loves you. We love you. I know this is why you all do the Artistic Vision podcast, to encourage and to support artists to be faithful and true and rooted. And then I would say, I believe, one of the things we've started doing is using language of commissioning artists as missionaries of beauty. I think I want to just say your art matters. Bring beauty to the world. You are a missionary of beauty. And whether your church realizes it or not, I would just say, the last chapter of this book is Missionaries of Beauty, and ends with a commissioning, a liturgy for artists that commissions all of us to go out into the world, to co-create with God and to bring beauty to the world. And so I think that would be kind of my closing encouragement and word for all artists, whoever you are, whatever God's called you to create, whatever the Lord's called you to do, is that all of us are called to be a missionary of beauty.
That's great. Good. Yeah, well, we'll definitely put a link to buy your book in the old show notes, and I really appreciated it. Thought it was a really helpful read, and I think, how you framed it, of whether you view yourself as a creative or not, this book is to say that you are, and if you don't have beauty as part of your life, you're missing something. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Winfield. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's always great to be on.